This episode of Soul Space Personalized. This is one episode out of a 7-part series that will be brought to you throughout February of 2023. Thank you to my guests, Rebecca Rose, Daryl, James, and Tony Rodriguez for being a part of this. The purpose or intention of bringing this to you is bringing to highlight some of the harder topics, some of the darker aspects of our world so that we can bring a greater awareness and light to it. And not only that, but to share ways that we can all heal as individuals and heal as a collective, so that we can move into a more brighter, more liberated world with better understanding, more peace and harmony. So thank you for being here and watching this series. I hope that you get something out of it. Hello everyone, welcome back. It's Alicia Brashe here at Cosmic Gateway, and I'm joined by Rebecca Rose. This is part 2. If you haven't seen part 1, I will link the link in the description box below. Rebecca and I have gone through a lot of different topics around supporting the nervous system, the physical body, healing modalities, ways to deal with unpacking trauma, looking at bloodlines, and looking at the bigger overarching cosmic perspective. So here we are back for part 2. Thank you, Rebecca, for being here. And
Thank you, Alicia. Yeah, thank you for having me.
I think we're going to dive into some really interesting topics in part 2. And I think you just have such a wealth of knowledge and experience, and come at it from so many different levels of vantage points for your own experience. So I love to pick apart your brain and get your inner workings or your thoughts and perspectives on things. But when we go back and looking at things like the secret space program or even satanic cults, can you talk to like the family system, the family structure, siblings? Have you experienced or witnessed patterns in what happens in those family systems? Obviously, we've looked at the bloodlines and the corrupted bloodline, DNA.
Yeah.
But in the actual family structure itself, what can you speak to about what you've experienced or witnessed of what happens in the family dynamic?
Yeah. Yes. It's such a great question. There's so much dissociative disorder happening. There's so much psychological disenfranchisement with each member of the family. Because you can look, like in my experience, I look back and go like, what kind of voodoo is going on in here that this is like the consensual reality that no one's talking about? Black is white, white is black, everything's inverted, 1 + 1 is 3. It's all this inversion going on. And for a young child coming into that environment, everything is inverted for us. And so we have no idea what the truth is. The family system is so corrupted that the lies become the truth. Lies become the truth. Lies become the truth. It's really hard to tell for the kid to tell truth from fiction. And that can last a lifetime until we begin to break free from the system, which requires a personal awakening and healing journey.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. It's a big topic.
It is, and that's why it was a very
where's the entry point? Who are the controllers and the gatekeepers in the system? There seems to be like there's usually one energetic system, one person, and their energy is controlling the whole family unit, so that there's like a spell cast upon the family, or a haze or an energetic field that's keeping everybody from knowing the truth, speaking the truth, and breaking out of the program.
Can you talk to that? Oh, you've set me off now. Can you speak to that in physical and energetic terms? Because obviously there's terms like handlers and watchers. I guess there's different names for that sort of overarching energy, or one person, or is there multiple people in, whether it be a relationship or a family structure, that's trying to keep all that together so that people can't see through the veil into the actual truth of what's actually occurring?
Yeah, well, it can be different iterations. Like in my situation, it was extended family, and as well as my mother, that were kind of controlling the overall status quo, right? I don't know if I could say there's one like blueprint that you know, it's always going to be a little different. Yeah. I'm just trying to go back. I'm trying to think back to what was really, how is this all kept under wraps? And this is a really good question. And it's big. So I'm kind of having some pause here to see my place of how do I articulate this? Even to myself, how do I articulate this? Because I come out of this, right, many years later, decades later, going, wow, that was really happening. There's going to be early programming to invert the child's system so that they don't know what the truth is, and that they will doubt themselves every step of the way. They won't be able to get the whole program is that you won't know the truth because you're too fucking scared to come out and claim what's true. You've been so addled by trauma and fear, you know, everything that's going on for the kid or the people in the family is a fear-based reality. And so to come back into a truthful perspective is going to take a heroic effort. But it's all based on inversion and energetic manipulation. And the people in the family who are controlling this are very compromised. They may be like, in my family, you know, quite compromised by dark entity attachments and dark energetics that are manipulating them. They're being fed on. They're being fed on. There's a deeper picture going on here. So it can be, you can feel helpless to get out of it. And even if you kind of come to your senses and say, well, who am I going to talk to that's going to, you know, who outside the situation could I talk to that's going to really believe the horrors that I'm experiencing in my own family?
Can you talk more to the energetics and the feeding and what occurs perhaps in a dynamic or maybe in the energetic system? Sorry, I'm not formulating that well at all.
Yeah. I think I got it though. I think I got it. I got it.
Okay, cool.
The energetics. Yeah, let me pause here. Just going back a little bit. You know, we talked in our last segment about safety and feeling safe. Like one of our biggest needs, and I'm framing this all from the perspective of a small child, because that's my own experience, was things were like of this nature were going on around me. So it's a kid's perspective, but the kid wants to feel safe. You're going to go along with the energy of manipulation, the energy of obfuscation and inversion, so that your energy is wed with the perpetrator, whether the handler, the perpetrator, the abuser. You want to bond with whoever will pay attention to you. And we compromise, you know this, your viewers probably know this, and our kids will do anything we have to do to survive extraordinary, debilitating circumstances in childhood, even if it means selling our soul to the fucking devil, you know, like, so to speak, but haha, we're talking about something that's relevant. So we wed with the perpetrator and think that abuse is love. So there's an energetic cord there, and everything's inverted. So a lot of my programming early on was so that, you know, the role of victim and perpetrator I was made to feel responsible for what was happening. Like I caused such and so to happen. And like at Montauk, we all felt like, oh, I caused that child to die in the ritual. I mean, we're going down deep, dark holes here. Also, I mean, I could build out the Montauk experiences, which are probably some of the most brutal in my whole career in these programs. Like when I was being kept in solitary confinement there in a dark, wet, like hole, basically, somebody would come in and I would be being sodomized, sexually abused, and drugged and so on and so forth. I couldn't wait for them to come for me because I was so exhausted and psychologically, like, you know, a child left alone in a condition like that is not going to do well. And that's the point, is they're not going to do well. So to have anybody come in to do anything to me was like the light of my life. Please come and get me. You know, I mean, it's so fucked up. So giving a personal example to explain kind of psychologically what is happening. Why are we getting so how is this even possible that this happens? Because our reality has been so debased from the beginning. We're so far away from ourselves, you know. Every player inside the whole system, victim, perpetrator alike, is getting drawn away from the source energetic that's going to help everything heal or everything come home again and be right again. So I don't know if I've spoken really that well to the question of energetics, but
can you dive a little bit deeper in talking about dissociation and what occurs maybe from a psychological perspective and maybe an energetic perspective, and why that's so important for them? Yeah.
Oh, well, it protects us. You know, I talked about surviving as a person. It doesn't have to be a child, but of course, like I said, all my experiences happened in early life. So that's kind of my vantage point, how I frame my answers, I suppose. Dissociative tendencies. I mean, we are, if anything, you know, think about if you've ever been in a car accident or something horrible happening. There's kind of this moment where you feel like you're outside of the scene, looking in perhaps in third person. Yeah, so we're kind of, that can be a moment of like a dissociated for a moment, because it's something so horrible is happening that we don't know if we can survive if we stay present. So there it goes. That's the basis of fragmentation of the mind. The mind can then be programmed. We split off to little pieces and parts, fragmentation, and so on and so forth. I mean, that's very much capitalized on in the programs, and that's, you know, go back into Nazi Germany. There was lots of, you know, using that to, I think about the twinning that happened with Mengele back in Auschwitz. There's so much that's happened to exploit this as a kind of technology. And that's exactly what happened with the SSP and the trauma-based mind control that was going on to allow us to be built out as assets and sent into space. There's a second part to your question.
Yeah, I was going to say, because I was getting this sense when you're talking of like dissociation happening as a safety mechanism. It's like is there a component that's psychological, and then there's a component that's energetic? So there's like a fragment of the consciousness or soul that's kind of going out as the psychological aspect of the brain is compartmentalizing, or I don't know if I explained that right, but
well, yeah, there's an energy that is, let's say, part of our consciousness could be splitting off to try and save itself. And energetic, we could talk about the etheric body, the energy body, doing various things to augment the situation so it's more workable. I mean, in my case, they were exploiting that whole thing of separating the etheric body from the physical body in Montauk to send me into time to look at things that were going to happen or could happen in the future. So there all these dark kind of programs they're so adept at working with energy. They're masterful at working with human energy. So I know we've been talking a lot about psychology and the body, but yeah, you're right. Like bringing it back around to energy. I mean, that's our pure nature, isn't it? We're energy above all else. Before we become form, we're energy. So that's going to be heavily exploited. And certainly was for me in many ways. I mean, I think the programs have changed a little bit in how they're working now, or that I was, like I said, I want people to know that I feel like I was back in late 70s, early 80s. This was like, in many ways, it feels like throughout that time period in earlier 60s. I mean, when did Project MK Ultra become a thing? You know, we had to go back into the 50s. Project Bluebird, 4950. Anyway, this was an iteration of the programs that was heavily relying on very dark technology. So I know that my perspective might be a little skewed as a result, because I experienced, like I said, the sewer of the programs.
Do you think that they were like testing out that technology? Like it was very low budget, very low grade technology that was kind of, it was an experimentation that they really didn't understand what they were doing?
Yes, I always felt I think every program I was in practically, at least in some part of it always felt like this is the big R&D lab. That's all this is. We're just guinea pigs in the lab. They always wanted to see how far they could push the human envelope. How far, like when I was built out on Mars and became, a cyborg clone, I mean, that's far out, right? They're seeing how much can human biology stand? How much can human psychology, far can the mind go before it just breaks? Yeah. And human energetics, what's going on with energy and consciousness, the field of consciousness. How can they manipulate, the strings of human consciousness? How can we augment all of that? So that's a great question. And I have, you are spot on, like one big experiment.
I feel like I'm what I call scratching on a concept right now. I feel like there's like a data dump that wants to come through and it's not quite there yet. So I'm going to let that formulate and just kind of take a minute just to honor the fact that your soul signed up to be in a human body, to literally be at the forefront of the experimentation of some of the, I don't have a word for it.
Yeah.
You really were at the forefront, a front runner to experience some of the darkest, most perverted, most inverted programs, and you were pushed to your limit. And you went through all of this to be here today, to be able to talk about it and share your experiences in such a put together, articulate, almost, there's a word that wants to come through, gracious way about that. And I kind of just want to take a moment right now just to honor that and honor you for that, because it's your whole experience is showcasing so much dark yet so much light, and what is possible in the resilience of the human spirit or the soul, and what it's capable of in transformation. So
thank you. Thank you. It is a lot, and it can take viewers down quite a rabbit hole too if you're listening to this and go, wow. I mean, even it gives me pause too, I think sometimes I don't give myself enough credit, like in order to go about my life, and some days and sometimes, like, I can't just be in this all the time. So it's somewhere hovering. It's always there, but it's a difficult thing to have a foot in both those worlds. In the one world, which is so hidden and so unacknowledged by the general public.
How do you manage that today, like Rebecca, today? Like, how do you manage navigating those worlds? Like, is there times throughout, and I know we've spoken about this, so I kind of know the answer, but for the viewers, is there times in our annual year where there is like a heightened definition of memory recall and going through processing and experiencing? And then, like, is there times where it becomes very dulled out, almost like muted?
Yeah.
Does that feed through your day-to-day life? I mean, can you give us a little overview of?
Yeah, well, there's definitely time. Kind of go through some cycles where there's a lot of retrieval, and then my focus might need to be elsewhere, and so there's a little break. And I think things are integrating, throughout. There's a cadence to it. There's a rhythm to it, because you can't be on the crest of the wave all the time. It's just not sustainable, and it's not really healthy. I would say too that, because I'm interviewing a lot, I make my own videos. I'm thinking about, I do work with clients who are like, have been in programs, and my mind there's not a day that goes by that I'm not thinking about this. But as far as the deepest, darkest trauma experiences, I'm still trying to find the balance where they're not cut off and they're welcomed into my life, but they're not taking over my experience. It's a really nice fine balance there. So we always want to welcome in what actually happened, but again, to not be, I've healed to the point where things are fairly balanced, but I mean, I just had some more Montauk memories come up less than a week ago that were really intense. And, you know, I'm better able to navigate that now. But it's, I mean, God, it's a process that's always, it's always in motion. There's a flux to the process. And what actually came up, Alicia, was what I experienced was going back into it firsthand. And the trauma element, I could feel the pain on some etheric level in my little body that was happening, but I was kind of taken out of I wasn't quite re-experiencing it, but I was also firsthand inside of it. It's hard to explain. It wasn't like I was looking at it in third person.
You were actually...
I was taken back into it. Yeah, it happened first thing in the morning where I'm doing some breath work and meditation while I'm lying in bed, lying down. And I was taken into the silver bullet time travel machine in Montauk. And I'm beginning to retrieve memories of what I was sent to look at in time, things that seem to be actually playing out now, which is mind-blowing to me. Holy shit. Anyway, what came up was an immense amount of anger. Like, I can't believe you fucking stuck like a 5-6-year-old child in this thing, brought her to near death by electrocuting her, sent her out into time, brought her back, let her rest for 5 minutes, and did the whole damn thing again and again and again. You fucking sickos. You know what I mean? Like, I've been so like, how is there even justice for this? A lot of me is very equanimous about what happens to me. I do mostly feel it in the vantage point of like the big picture. But at the same time, I mean, Montauk is a Holocaust that happened here, and it's still so hidden. So I'm grateful sort of that we're talking about things that I don't usually talk about, where in my interviews, we go into SSP stuff. I mean, we're talking about, it's all in context, it's all related, but I feel like I need to give more voice to, so many people died, so many children died in Montauk, and they are voiceless. So this is, it's kind of, this topic is kind of fresh and cooking for me, you know, to give voice, like I said, to speak it. And in that speaking, something is redeemed for all of us.
Do you think that that righteous rage that comes up in you is a catalyst for some momentum of something that's kind of moving through maybe your process and what's to come of work or projects or giving voice to, or something potentially that's coinciding in the collective field? That emotion and that experience, do you think there's a timing to that potentially?
Yeah, I do, because anytime if that's been trapped in my system, let's say, using myself as the example here, it's going to be shutting down some level of some measure of life force energy. So yeah, as we learn, and you know, anger is a tough one in our culture, especially with women. We're not allowed to, you know, nice ladies don't get mad. You don't say the F word, and you're not getting like enraged about something. That's just not what we do, right? There's such a taboo about anger in our world. And it is like you had those beautiful words, righteous rage. Like, there absolutely is a place for rage, given what I went through over and over again in Montauk. Absolutely. It's a valid emotion. And so I really I think part of this is that I've worked so much on myself over the years that it's a safe way. I'm safe now. I'm stable and grounded. I'm very healthy in so many ways. There's a safe container to hold anger now. I don't know that it would have been true before.
Yeah.
And I think there's a healthy process to be that I'm exploring now, you know, really. So yes, and it will lead to more catalyzed empowerment in the rest of my life, and a creation spark. You know, anger has a lot of beautiful energy in a way, if we look at it just as energy and not all the construct that we have about the emotion itself. Emotions are energy.
Yeah. I feel like righteous rage and anger, when it is alchemized correctly in our process, can be a catalyst for creative expression.
Yes.
Doing something really powerful. That it's like we take that injustice and all that horrific, whether it memory or something you're deeply passionate about, and able to like experience it, sit with it, internalize it, alchemize it, and then output it into something that's going to be
yeah
yeah.
Yeah, I think I mean, it's beautiful. I'm glad we're talking about it because it does, it's transformative, and we're transforming energy and we're making it usable and useful. Anytime we're holding emotion, sadness, grief, pain, whatever, anger, it's shutting us down. I already said that, but I think it bears repeating because it gets stored inside of us in our energy field in our body.
Yeah, and that's where we become sick, you know, if that energy is not in motion, energy, like if it's not moving, it becomes it becomes stagnant. We become withdrawn, we become depressed. You know, there's so many components to not being able to express or move energy in constructive ways.
Yeah.
But I want to come back to Montauk because there's something like that's such a new and fresh memory for you, and that child, like that awakens some sort of rage in me. And as you were saying that, I had this very vivid memory come back to me. I think it would have been around January of 2013, 2012, 2013. And I was walking in the woods with my dad, and he was telling me about Montauk and the children and the experimentations. And we had this long walk in a place nearby my house, and they were always like the most precious memories for me as a child, because my dad, I always see as like, he cloaks it very well, but he's this galactic wise elder on some dimension that always kind of plants a seed in my consciousness, like. And I just remember him telling me about what he had uncovered about Montauk and about the children that were used in those programs. And it sparked something in me back then that I needed to research and understand and learn more about that. And then it and so you brought it up, and I'm like, oh my goodness. And sorry, I don't know where I'm going with this, but I feel like there is threads on our own personal timeline that kind of anchor in, because what you just described now is not the way that it was presented to me back then. But there's no way that my consciousness could have held anything like that. So there's kind of, I guess what I'm trying to get at is there's layering process to being able to get to the root trauma, the root experience, the truth in it. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. Wow. It's actually, you know, whenever one person speaks the truth of what happened to them, it's a healing for the collective. So we're holding some space for that now. We know that, you know, just to give voice to that. I think what I saw was so detailed. I mean, where I was going in time was so detailed. And this went on, I recorded myself because I was in a light trance, and I got the phone out, and it was still dark in the room, and I'm just slowly going through and narrating what I'm seeing and remembering as if I'm in it. And it went on for 45 minutes. So it was like, it wasn't like this blip of memory. It was like, wow, this is an intense experience, and it's playing out and playing out and playing out. Far out. So I don't think where I was going with that was that I don't think maybe, you know, it's again, this thing happens in organic, intelligent stages that are not conscious to me, but have a way of orchestrating that's just right. And maybe it wasn't time for me to go into that depth of detail with this particular situation previously.
Is there anything more that you can share about what came through in that? Like you mentioned that you saw things that are playing out on real time.
Let me tell you what happened there. God, I mean, part of it was like I was going into two experiences. Part of what was happening was knowing what was happening to my body when they put me in I call it the silver bullet time tunnel torture tube. I mean, it's a silver bullet, it's very sleek, looks like, I mean, it feels like being in a coffin or something when you're inside of it, and it's closed, and they're lighting it up with electricity. And they're splitting off your consciousness so you can journey for them. And as I was noticing what was going on with my body, I'm also having this, I'm really blissfully dissociated. So I'm not actually even feeling the pain that's going through my little, 6-year-old body. I can feel myself kind of just floating. And then I'm going into what I realized was a Russian space station, both a ground command center and up on a spaceship. And I could hear them yelling at me from back in Montauk at the silver bullet, like, tell us what you're seeing. And I'm being totally non-cooperative. I'm shutting down a part of my brain so they cannot get the information that they want, and they're getting pissed. Anyway, but long story short is that I actually observed a favorable collaboration with Pleiadians, a kind of Nordic race, that Russian. This is what's happening now, though. This is happening now. I had this strong sense, like, why did this happen right now? Is because back in 1970, whatever, late 70s, I was actually brought into the moment that we're moving through now. And it's relevant now. There's some kind of, the cooperation I saw was actually really benevolent, and it was not exploitive. It wasn't about war. It wasn't about weapons. It was a benevolent contact with, it could have been, I don't know yet if it was Galactic Confederation. I have a sense that it might be. There's more I think I can still get. They slammed so when they realized I was blocking them and they're yelling at me and I'm like way out in time somewhere, they slammed the system down and brought me back abruptly. At that moment, I was touching the hand of a Nordic lady, and I wanted to stay with her. I have a feeling they sent me back, and that I can get more retrieval in more is coming. I don't think this is over, but I think this comes to bear on what we're moving through now, and Russia perhaps being a change agent that we might not be aware of. Is there that possibility? Yeah, so.
No, I'm just tripping out. Well, I'm not, but I had a series of dreams in 2016 that depicts very similar things, and it all of a sudden dawned on me over the last 2 months, and I've been sitting with these downloads and these dreams that I've been having and connecting dots, and I was like, oh, that's all playing out real time right now. And it had a lot to do with the Nordics and the Pleiadians and governments.
Yes. So yeah, that's amazing. Thank you. It's really remarkable that these things are coming through us now. And I think talking about the timeline that we are headed into. And I keep myself, some people take issue with this around my willful indulgence in keeping myself in a bit of an information vault. So I don't always know what's happening politically, or I don't follow a lot of stuff. So I'm just like, I don't know, blank slate. Is this a thing? Is it not a thing? Maybe I should find out. So like, I have no idea. I'm not getting front loaded. I do that so I will never get front loaded.
And I think that's wise. Yeah, very wise.
Yeah. So I'm curious. I'm just curious about a lot of things right now. A lot of coming through about Russia and the possibility that there's benevolent movement there that can help also change our world in communion with other forces at play. These benevolent ET interactions, like I said, that are not about war and conquest. They're about bringing us into a higher plane.
Can you speak to, oh, sorry. I just had a moment there.
Yeah.
Oh, I felt all that. I think anyone that's energetically sensitive or intuitive would maybe have felt that energy that just came through in what you shared, because there was like a little kid in me that just wanted to jump up and down with excitement and squeal, and like there's a lot of emotion that I can't kind of articulate, but I'm going to take a little bit of a U-turn, but it kind of connects in.
Okay. All right.
Can you talk to some of the benevolent beings? Actually, no. Can you talk to some of the beings that you've interfaced with throughout your journey, throughout your personal experience, through sessions?
Oh, there's so many. Oh gosh, we're gonna have to be here for days. Well, you know, when you said that, I have to say the Draco came to mind because we've been talking about reptilians. Maybe not what you wanted to talk about.
That's fine. No, it's all good.
There's so many beings. I mean, I think because we're talking about the programs, of course, the Draco come up. You know, I was owned by the Draco toward the latter end of my servitude, or I would say enslavement rather than service. I was owned by the Draco, and I think that had everything to do with the reptilian blood. I think that earmarked me from the time I came in. This was all planned out. So there's that coming to mind. But benevolent groups, I mean, we could also talk about, wow, yeah, let's talk about this. My involvement with those that I call a light alliance, which is the Galactic Confederation, part of the Galactic Confederation. And if people are saying, like, how did she survive all that? How is she still here and didn't die in the programs or at the hands of, you know, people in her extended family? When I was taken out, I have a tandem life aspect, a galactic aspect that is with the Galactic Confederation. It's a Syrian ship. It's a living craft. It's beautiful, a beautiful living world inside that ship. They have always been, they've always been with me. I call them galactic guardians in a way, but maybe you and I think we've talked about this before. My mate from Procyon named Tyrion, who's on that ship. But when I was taken, let's say for the time and back, the 20 and back with the Mars and beyond, part of me was being preserved. There's a soul fragment, fractal, we say fractal, that was being preserved. And it was always meant that I would survive everything that came into my path. And they helped make it so. They've helped me stay alive. So I can talk about them on that ship, or, you know, Procyon Nordics, Pleiadians, Syrians, and a kind of a hodgepodge. In some ways, we've become a little bit of have served as a bit of a refugee ship over time, transporting people who might be in crisis. Yeah, and there's all of that, which is so full of light. And all of my guides, I mean, I've got, well, we talked about Tia, kind of a self aspect, and also who serves as a kind of protector and guide for me. Oh gosh, there's so many different groups, insectoid groups, mantids, and the ant people, the ant beings, the grays, different iterations of the grays, and Arcturians who show up on my sessions a lot, Arcturian energies, Andromedan. There's so many groups, and over time, it seems like I've made contact in different ways with a variety of different frequencies, dimensional expressions of different groups. It's really endless. And yeah, did you have something particular in mind, or?
I do have a question on that light ship. Is there, when you were talking about that fractaled aspect of your energy, your consciousness that was preserved to make sure that you would stay intact, is that like in an energetic pod? Or, yeah.
In part, it's not. Oh, we're on another slippery slope because the audience way beyond 3D. You can't think about all this with your 3D mind because your mind will go into a puddle. There's pods where I feel myself at rest often. I'm resting in the pod. I'm rejuvenating in the pod. Sometimes I'm in storage in the pod. But I also have a job that I do on the ship, making sure we stay on track. It's kind of a how do I say? I've called it as an arbiter of justice. That's kind of the function. I'm a part of a group that's making sure we don't violate what could be called as prime directives. But yes, the pod. I got off track there, but just to say yes, there's a pod thing, and I'm in the pod a lot.
Thank you. Yeah. I've seen that a lot, and you've just given me a piece of the puzzle, so thank you. Can you talk more to that? I think maybe some of the audience might pick up on this and understand this, and others it might take time to sort of filter into their consciousness. But can we talk to that lighter aspect of us that might be in different form, that's kind of an overseeing, governing force, perhaps, to give some context around like how people survive through these, horrendous traumas and from the multi-dimensional aspect? Did you want to share a little bit more about like your duties there in that form, and like how you connect with that and what that looks like?
Yeah, it's a tricky thing. To be really honest, I've had a challenging journey with connecting with it, and it's getting better and better, but it's been, I think I know that I have felt that if I connect completely there, that I won't be able to live well here. Like, how do I live in both worlds? It's a journey in progress, right? So I want to, be totally transparent and say that it wasn't, you'd think it'd be like super easy and, oh, this is so like light and beautiful, but it's actually been really hard. And connecting with Tia and my mate there, I've been challenged with that. I think I talked about this on your show before. It has gotten better, and I'm more able to work with the challenge to a 3D mind, that there's more than one me. There's multiple aspects of my own, different iterations of my body. And as I've come to understand that I am a field of consciousness that comes from the Andromeda galaxy. And it's easier for me to conceive of these different body forms that I see myself in on the ship. And of course, here I have my body, human body is Rebecca. It's easier, and I can connect with, sometimes the Andromedan aspect comes into me directly in full first person. And sometimes I feel her outside of me helping me. Like, she comes in with this, like, she has this little, some little techie thing, and she runs it over my arm to kind of measure something. It's like, oh, you need more of this. It's really interesting. So sometimes she comes in that form, which is more like outside of me, I'm seeing her here instead of I'm experiencing her within. So there's so much to this. And I continue to have to unpack it at a kind of slow pace. I mean, in so many ways, I've seen them as my family, but I know the calling now is to, again, give voice to this aspect of my story and the experience. I mean, I was kind of serving as a double agent in a way, in many ways. So I think I give a kind of short shrift to this aspect of my life. And I also know that I was programmed to not remember them, to not speak of them under duress. And that does explain some of why it's been difficult to bring this into the fold of what I talk about in interviews as well. There was heavy programming before I left for Mars. When I was sent to the Navy base north of Chicago, where I was twinned with Dean. And this also happened. Like, you will never remember them. They're nothing to you. You will never speak about them. You will not remember. Basically, you won't remember your mission. Yeah.
So how, in that heavy programming of trying to shut that whole aspect out, how do you feel like that was overridden?
Yeah.
Like how, yeah,
it's me coming into, I think me starting, like, take us back to the beginning of the series, and we started saying, like, what brought you into healing, talking about my story in general and talking about all the dark things that happened, brought me farther into my power and allowed me to see the programming that had happened around the Galactic Confederation and not relating to them, and resourced me to be able to do it more directly. In fact, as an imperative at this point, it's imperative for me to relate with them and reclaim that part of my heritage, my purpose, my life now. my life now. This isn't like in the past. A lot of times we talk about, the time and back as it's in the past in so many ways, right? Time being a slippery thing, but this is still going on now. This is going on now, and it's only here to help make me better. So I think the whole journey is leading me to this, has led me to this.
What does that give you in your human aspect? Does that strengthen your health? Does it strengthen your intuitive gifts and abilities? Does it bring in more creativity?
Yeah.
Sense of self? I don't know, like.
Yeah, that's a great question. Sense of self, sense of purpose, sense of love. Tricky one for me. Tricky. All of my early relationships were about betrayal. So that's also why, I bet I've talked about this. It's been a challenge to receive the benevolence. Like, here's benevolent family. To attune to that is a journey of healing for me. Yeah, and it is empowering. It's so powerful to connect with this part of who I am. This part of who I am. That's rewriting the whole score and script, the music of my life. Yeah.
Do you feel as you connect with the energy of that and embody that more, that starts to completely change your reality in the sense of receiving the benevolence, the goodness, the love, the connection?
Yes. Yeah, because it creates that blueprint. It's rewriting. Yeah, like we said, that's a different way of saying, yeah, rewriting the script, creating the new blueprint for goodness and attuning and entraining and welcoming and benevolent people into my life, loving people, loving relationship into my life. Yeah.
So that's so beautiful, and that feels like it brings this kind of I know it's not full circle by any means, it's no completion, but it feels like it brings a unity in. It brings this, I get it a lot, and it's actually showing me like the yin yang and bringing that in together. And,
yes. Yeah.
And I think what comes to mind for me as you share that is like, you're going through that in your own personal journey. We talk about the micro, the macro. I think humanity is starting to like come into that. Do you have anything that you feel that you want to share about where humanity's at, or where we're kind of moving forward to this year and beyond?
Yeah, I think there is so much to reclaiming our galactic inheritance. Really, like you said it beautifully. I'm doing this individually, but what are we doing collectively? I know you see a lot of people, and I do see a lot of people who are like, am I a starseed? Or am I on a ship at night? Or what's my bigger mission? Yeah, this is what we're doing here. We're reclaiming, I was programmed to not remember. In a way, we were all programmed to not remember. Like there's this mass spell of not remembering that we come from there as well as here. And it's massively empowering. I mean, this is such a beautiful part of our conversation, to recall our, I think I said it well, inheritance, our inheritance, the magnificent radiance that transcends these bodies, and that we're not just one dimension here in 3D, but we're multidimensional and many of us have parallel experiences. It's not limited. And I would also argue many times that time is kind of this slippery construct. Was it back then? Is it coming in the future? Is it now? Time. So that's what I would say. I mean, we're all tasked with maybe there's people who are sitting in the audience going, well, I'm not really from the stars. What do you mean? But we all have multiple incarnations that we've experienced prior to getting here, even if those were on Earth. We have tremendous gifts to be gained, energetic frequencies to align with from past lives and all that we experience up to this point. So we can draw upon that vast wellspring of intelligence to bring that in now. So now we're kind of convening with all of our different lifetimes of experience individually, and then collectively, how do we draw upon that? There's so much wisdom right now that is always, I mean, it's available, and maybe the gateways to reconnect with that are becoming more available to us too.
Mm-hmm. It feels very much so like that at the moment, and it's this massive sort of downpouring of consciousness. I feel this energetic frequencies are bombarding the planet, that it's like giving people almost like signal and code to like, hey, look at this, and in ways that it will relate to people. Look at this, look at, like I'm finding people coming into contact with me now that just all of a sudden have come onto my radar, and it's because it's their time. Like it's their time, and I've got something that I can share with them, and vice versa. But I loved how you put all that, and I just want to go back to something you said about like we've all had these different incarnations and experiences before this lifetime, and it's pulling on all of that and bringing that in now. And I always talk about the ascension process, and I think that's really what it is on a personalized level, is bringing in all that energetic and bringing it into this alchemized form that we can draw upon all of our experiences and all of our wisdom gained through all these lifetime experiences or through the multidimensional field. And it's going to look different for everyone. Like I did a series of artwork in 2018 around divine partnership connections, because I was seeing different energetic patterns in different people's sessions, and I was noticing that one had it like a solid form and one had more of it was all in color and energy. So I have to paint them, otherwise I can't explain it. And that was when it dawned on me, like these people have more of an orient to earth experiences, and that's their kind of energetic makeup. And then there was this other group that were very much oriented in having off-world experiences on their soul's journey, and that's what was showing me the different colors of the energetic. So it's like, I guess the moral of the story is find what resonates for you, that's going to help support, facilitate that process and that journey. So Rebecca.
Yeah, so much. I mean, we're all helping each other too. I mean, we're not doing this in a vacuum. There's a whole collective movement where we're catalyzing each other, I would say. And I'm hoping that this conversation is helping your audience in some way. Yeah.
Well, I guess I get the instruction and the download, and I was told back in May last year that I had to do this, and I know that from when I get the initial download, I have to go through a series of experiences and embody frequencies until I'm actually physically ready to do it. So sometimes there's like a lag time of about 6 months or so until it comes into manifestation. But I think we're moving into a quicker time where that lag time between the energetics and the physical is like shortening and shortening and shortening. At least that's how I've been experiencing things of late. So just to bring things into a close for now, because I've so much enjoyed talking to you. This has been so much fun.
Go on for hours and hours.
Yeah. What would you say to people that may be on the precipice now of coming into unpacking memory or having experiences? Like, what would you say to them if they were listening right now and feeling a resonance of like, wow, that's some really way out stuff, but for some reason that feels really familiar? Where do I begin? What do I do? What's my...
Yeah. Oh, wow. I mean, for me, what comes up when you say that is, I think having the intention to welcome it, if that feels right to you. And what is your intention around this, and making that clear? But also for me, I'm just like, oh, I would start writing. I know that's not everybody's medicine, but I think making a decision inside, because that will signal to the higher self to reveal more to you. if it's ready, like you're saying, okay, I feel like I could know more about this. Can you help me? Well, make that a thing, you know, let that be clarified. And not trying to hurry the process, but, you know, throughout these two conversations, I think I've mentioned really working with my own organic pace with this, like not needing to get to the end of understanding it all just now. And it's been so helpful to me is, and this is not always easy, but being able to live with the not knowing as things are revealing. You'll go through these pockets where nothing quite makes sense, but to make some room for that and to be patient with it, because down the road it will, and to not kind of throw the baby out with the bathwater, which we can sometimes do, like, oh, this doesn't add up, I don't know what that is, but just kind of make a container where you can start to just holding space for all that wants to arise. I don't have a one size fits all answer to that. No, but it's to lean into it if that feels right to you and you're curious about it. There's some people I see people as clients sometimes who are like, I cannot stop looking at SSP stuff. What is the deal with that? Like, was I in the programs? And actually, some of these people are the space holders, the grounding rods, the anchors for this stuff to reveal, to become disclosed to the wider world. You're serving a huge function and becoming more attuned with and educated about this. You're holding the space for disclosure to happen. So that can also be something that might be catalyzing for people, like, wow, I can't stop. All this stuff is kind of, you know, you might be listening to a lot of stuff that's kind of sounds crazy, or it's really dark or really deviant, and like, why can't I stop? Why can't I stop? You've got a journey to make for the greater good, and something will alchemize in your own life around this. You might have a mission that's about holding space for this to disclose too. So
thank you for bringing that point up, because I feel like we all have a role to play, and that's going to look very different for everyone. Some people it's about unpacking their own experience and going through the hero's journey. And I think for other people who are drawn into that it may not necessarily be their own experience, but possibly it's people around them that they will help be that friend or that person or that parent or that whatever. So I think that was a really key, important point that you brought up about, like, you know, there's definitely not one size that fits all.
Well, and so as more people who, you know, like I said, the people who maybe don't feel like they were abductees or experiencers per se, when they integrate this knowledge that these things happen, and when they accept the possibility that all this is really real and it has been happening for a while now, that creates an energy field that moves and ripples through the collective, and it allows the next person and the next person and the next person to also make the journey of considering this a very real possibility, what's gone on, and the truth of what's happened on this planet, under the surface, under the cover of darkness, in secret. For how long? You know, so it's becoming disclosure. We're getting into the conversation around disclosure and how it happens.
It's a real ripple effect.
Yeah,
I saw that as you were explaining it. Thank
Alicia.
Thank you so much. As I mentioned in the beginning, you know, Rebecca offers personalized sessions that you can connect with her individually if you feel that you need additional support. I'll put all the details in the description box below. Is there anything that you want to share to that about what people might come for, or what type of sessions? Because I know we, you know, very off the cuff do a session, but like, what does that actually mean? Sometimes it's
I offer a variety of things. Usually people start with a reading and soul counsel session to get an idea of what is their journey calling for now, like what needs to be tended. I do coaching, intuitive coaching sessions, and we can look through the Akashic records. We can look more into what's happened to you. If you have missing time or missing memory or something, we can also look into past lives. I do healing sessions You will hear a lot of light language in all of my sessions. So there's transmissions that go on throughout each session that are unique to the person that I'm working with. So there's a lot. There's sessions where you can get just a light language attunement, really, that happens. And I do personalized astral journeys, so taking you on journeys beyond space and time, sometimes into sacred sites, and exploring the medicine of those places, bringing something home. And that can help out attune you with kind of experiences from the collective past or your own personal past. So on and on it goes. Just visit the website. Have fun.
No, thank you for giving that showcase, because then that gives people a bit more of a context and understanding of like how they can connect with you and what they can get from that and the various different examples. So
and I should say too, I do inner child sessions, since we talked about that in the first segment. That is one of the, the beautiful outgrowths in my own work over the years of my own inner young parts. I can help people connect and heal through that modality, let's say. So
amazing. And I think like that comes from a wealth of knowledge of personal experience. So if you are looking for support on any of these topics, I think the best healers are the ones who have the personal experience and then the embodied wisdom from their healing journey, and you are the epitome of that. So thank you, Rebecca.
Well, thank you. That's high praise, Alicia. Yeah, thank you so much for having me today. And I'm looking forward to the whole series coming out, with Daryl and Tony and us getting together.
Yeah, and doing the four of us. So thank you so much once again, Rebecca. Thank you everyone for watching. I hope that you've taken a piece of the energy that has been shared in this exchange and giving you what you need for the next leg of your journey. Until next time, stay tuned. Thank you and goodbye.